I've been injured with a rotator cuff tear for the past 2 years, and I've been in a cycle of rehab then injury, rehab then injury, rehab then injury for the past 2 years. I've worked with a coach, I've researched as much as I possibly could. I've tried whatever method I came across to fix the shoulder, but it just has not worked. Sure, I'd get to a point where my shoulder is not hurting, I can move it around, but every single time I'd get to a specific peak, let's say my old strength levels with the overhead press, for example, I would always end up having a flare up after that point. I would always build up to this level, then I'd fall back down. Then I'd build up again to this level, even more carefully, then I'd again fall down. I'd build up again to this level, then I'd again fall down. This happened even when I was working with my coach, and this also happened even when I stopped working with my coach. So I was going crazy. I was like, why the hell is this not happening? Because I want to be able to train the way I want to. I want to be able to push myself. I want to be able to destroy my muscles in the gym. I want to be able to really go to failure without having to worry about, oh, this shoulder's gonna hurt again. I don't want to have that thought in the back of my mind. During this whole research process, I came across Ben Patrick. And of course, he's known as knees over toes guy, but he also talks about the shoulder. And I think that is when I stumbled upon something that I genuinely believe, inshallah, by God's will, can actually help me and solve this whole issue that I'm going. For context, I had a partial rotator cuff tear that I actually got playing badminton. So I tried to smash, but I did it like this, boom. And so that was a terrible decision because that form was terrible. And that got me an injury that has lasted almost the past 2 years. From July last year to, well, it's June right now, so almost 23 months. That is insane. But how I'm applying KOTG's principles, knees over toes guys principles, to my specific injury is by first understanding these principles, which I want to discuss right now. The first principle is to train with a full range of motion. And this is something not just Ben Patrick talks about, but even Mike Israel talked about it on his podcast with Knees Over Toes Guy.
My understanding of sort of modern rehabilitative practice, as soon as let's say you have some pain somewhere, maybe you're just like actually had an acute tear and you have surgery, the number one thing to do after is with as much loading as you can tolerate pain-wise in such a way that the pain isn't getting worse set to set, and especially not worse session to session and week to week, you work on that level of loading and you expand your range of motion at that joint up until it's pretty much maximum range of motion. Then you start loading the joint a little bit more, but you still are getting most of your stimulus from repetitions. Then after that, you're loading the little bit more, but you're building volume, multiple sets. Yeah. And then after that, you start to take the reps down a little bit and crank the weight up a little bit, but really you've built a lot of musculature, you've built a ton of competence, you've built a ton of movement aptitude, and by then you're barely in any knee pain at all. Just with heavier weights, it feels a little weird sometimes, and whatever number of weeks, months, or years that whole process takes you, at the end of it, you're just like squatting heavy as shit for sets of 5 or 10 reps with your knees going way over your toes, sitting on your heels, and you're like, I feel great. And then someone's like, yeah, man, you could do that because you have healthy knees. And you're like, oh, swear to God.
Because think about it. If you don't train to a full range of motion, if you're used to just doing shoulder press from here to here, what happens when someday, I don't know, the weight's too heavy or whatever, you're going down to here? Or let's say that you bench press to 90 degrees. What happens when you go slightly beyond that someday? The risk of tearing a pec is way more than it would have been if you were just training to a full range of motion. So what Mike talks about is something that I'm actually experimenting both with my upper body and my lower body. I am using what he says for behind the neck press, which obviously it can seem like, bro, if you have a torn rotator cuff, that movement is very bad for you. But what if I can build it up? It's safe for you if you build it up. What if I build it up, right? So I'm experimenting with that. Number 2, for my lower body, I'm experimenting with hamstring curls. For some reason, every single time I've done hamstrings, I've always had pain behind my knees. I don't know why. For some reason, every single time I've done hamstring curls with the cable, I've done hamstring curls with my own body weight, I've done Nordic curls, I've done Romanian deadlifts, I've done good mornings. Every single time I've done a movement that stretches or squeezes my hamstring, I've always had pain behind my knees. So what I'm doing now is I'm doing cable hamstring curls, but I'm using that process that Mike talks about and the principle of training in a full range of motion that Ben Patrick also talks about to, God willing, fix my hamstrings completely. The second thing is load capacity and tissue adaptation. So basically, the biggest thing when it comes to training in a full range of motion is realizing that you need to choose a load that is appropriate for you. For example, for me, right, if flies hurt, if flies like going like this with dumbbells hurt, then if I just remove all load and I just go like this right now, feels fine. Not the best, but feels fine. Now, what if I start here? Then I add 1 pound dumbbells, then 2 pound dumbbells, then 3 pound dumbbells, then 5 pound dumbbells, then 10 pound dumbbells, then 12 pound dumbbells. What if I slowly build my way up there, right? And slowly increase the load over time, not over a few days, but over weeks and months. Based on the principle of tissue adaptation, I should be able to do so without any issues at all. because my tissues adapt, right? I'm giving them time. I'm not rushing the process. I'm giving them time by taking it easy with the load I use. Initially, I start off with something that is very, very light, and slowly and steadily, as the weeks go by, as the months go by, I am increasing that load so my tendons can handle more and more and more weight over time, and therefore building a more resilient shoulder. And during this time, because I'm training in a full range of motion, I am conquering that entire motion by, first off, again, training in a full range of motion, but also increasing the load over time. And the third and final principle is getting stronger in reverse. What this means is basically you get stronger in an exercise that is the opposite of the motion that can get you injured. For example, if you talk about me, right, I got injured playing badminton. It kind of occurred to me a few days ago. I was like, bro, what? This was the key, right? I got injured like this. I was going like, boo, right? What if I got stronger in reverse? This exercise is a trap 3 raise. What if I got stronger at trap 3 raises? What if I'm able to do 12%, 15% of my body weight for 3 sets of 10? I think I'll be pretty strong, right? And I think I'll be way more resilient in this movement pattern, right? And what if me getting stronger like this is actually something that can help me truly fix my shoulder because I haven't gotten stronger, because I'm officially getting stronger in the pattern that is opposite to what got me injured. Reaching my arm out horizontally feels super unstable. But one of the movements that Ben talks about is the power raise, right? You bring your arm like this. If I get strong there, I'm getting stronger in reverse of this motion, therefore I should be more stable. When you think about something like tennis, right? In tennis, you're going like this. Well, you get stronger at the external rotation. That is a movement in reverse of that motion. So if you just get stronger in reverse at these specific movements, you're gonna build a more resilient shoulder and bulletproof your shoulder. But it's so cool to be resilient and bulletproof. Like imagine nothing hurting at all in your body at any time of the day. Like I crave that so much, God please. Now the other thing I'm doing is using ATG specific exercises. The specific exercises that Ben talks about in his programs and in his videos, which for me, when it comes to the lower body, are specifically backwards walking on the treadmill, split squats, tibialis raises, calf raises, and for the upper body, his shoulder circuit, his 3-step shoulder circuit that even Joe Rogan talked about. I'm doing that specifically because it covers all of the movements that are gonna get you stronger in reverse. The external rotation, the power raise, and then the trap 3 raise. And it will also help you build more stable shoulders over time as well. So that coupled with a few different movements, like something for the serratus anterior, something for hanging, training in a full range of motion, and taking my time with it and loading the movements I'm doing, my main movements, a vertical press and vertical pull, a horizontal press, a horizontal pull, loading those over time slowly, I genuinely believe it's going to fix my shoulder completely, inshallah, because I'm building holistically. I'm building a complete system, not just focusing on one specific muscle. Now, if you're new to this stuff, this can cross your mind that, well, you're just a skinny kid, you have no muscle, or you have no muscle, just go and lift. And to that, I want to say, I agree with you. I myself want to go and just lift so bad. I just want to be able to go and push weight in the gym. I want to be able to go and push my own body weight and train calisthenics and train hard, train to RPE 9, RPE 10, just absolutely go to close to failure or to failure, but I can't do that. Not right now. You know why? Because every single time I've tried doing that in the past few years, I've always ended up with a flare-up, right? My injury has always flared up. Every single time without fail. So I've been in the cycle of rehab and then injury, rehab then injury, rehab then flare-up, rehab then flare-up, rehab then flare-up. And I want to end the cycle once and for all. I want to break this pattern that's been taking place the past 2 years. And so it seems like stupid functional training, but to me, honestly, how I'm looking at it is it's going to help me build a solid foundation. And if I can build this solid foundation, so after building this foundation, I can then build upon it through training hard, focusing more on building muscle, right? Pushing more weight, getting close to failure. But that can only happen if my shoulder has the capacity to be able to handle that amount of volume, handle that amount of load, handle that intensity. You get what I mean? Now, granted, if I did not have a single injury in my body, I would 110% just do the basic bodybuilding exercises, the basic calisthenics exercises, right? I prefer calisthenics. And I would just do those. But I do those, again, with a full range of motion and really going through the movement completely, right? I just do it like that. And I'd combine that with his shoulder circuit, right? Because I still want to make sure that my shoulders are healthy. I still want to make sure that I don't risk any injury, right? I still want to make sure. And so I combine that with his shoulder circuit. But when it comes to the lower body, I would honestly just do whatever Ben Patrick's talking about. Me personally, I don't care about having the biggest legs. I don't care about having the most aesthetic legs. I care about having functional, strong legs. Like, I care about doing the things that he does, like those sissy squats and stuff like that. I want to do those things. I want to be able to move my knees, move my legs without feeling any pain whatsoever. I want to be able to run long distance, run marathons, and push myself, run fast, and do all that stuff without having any hindrance from my legs or my joints. And that is why I would honestly just follow whatever he's doing for legs. And that is exactly what I'm doing right now. So this may seem like pointless training and just go and work on the freaking things, right? I understand that, but I honestly have no option. I have no option. If you're constantly in pain, if you're constantly in a cycle of rehab, and oh my God, I'm almost there, and then you come crashing down because you have a flare-up again and again and again. If you're in this cycle, it becomes debilitating. Like, you become desperate. You become desperate for any possible method, any solution that can actually get you out of this. You become desperate for it. You're like, bro, just tell me what it is, I'll do it. Because you're so sick and tired of it. Like, I love training. I freaking want to go and train every single day. I love training. I want to train twice a day. I love working out. But what's the point of pushing myself actually leads to the cycle continuing? There's no point. So I'd rather have one long build-up and then be able to build off of that foundation over time. And also, it's not like this isn't proper training. When you think about it, what am I doing? ATG shoulder press, right? Or the incline bench press, a horizontal row, a pull-up. Like, I'm already doing these motions. It's just like I'm starting off in a regression that has sub-maximal intensity, and then I'm slowly building up to a progression that I can actually do comfortably and that I can actually push myself in. But this period of time, I need to spend that. You can't skip this part. You can't go from this portion to this portion like this. It takes time to go from 0 to 100. Otherwise, if you go from 0 to 100 like this, you're gonna go from 100 to 0 like this as well. So when it comes to the implementation of this, let me show you my leg days and my upper days. I was editing this video and I realized that I did not make a implementation video. So let me make this real quick. So when it comes to my leg days, it's pretty darn simple. I start off backwards walking on the treadmill. I do about 3 to 5 minutes, anywhere, from 3 to 5 minutes to actually warm up my knees, because think about it. I'm coming in cold. I want my knees to have blood flow. I want my knees to feel good. I want my quads to be pumped. And that is exactly what backwards walking on the treadmill does for me. So I do about 3 to 5 minutes. And once I'm done, again, my quads are pumped, my knees are filled with blood, and now I can actually move on to the movements that I want to get onto. But before I do that, I end up doing about 25 tibialis raises and 25 calf raises. The reason is that I started running about a year and a half ago, and I never encountered shin splints in my life. Never encountered shin splints in my life. If I did, maybe it was only a couple times. And I feel that the reason is when I started running, before that, I was already doing tibialis raises. I was already doing calf raises pretty much 3 times a week, every single week for months, right? And so my knees were already prepared, or my shins were already prepared to take on the load that I would get from running, right? So that is why I still do these to this day. I'm actually progressing these now to a weighted progression, because I've seen the value that I get from these when it comes to running, and I want to continue getting that value from these movements. So that is why I still keep these in my workouts right before I actually start my main movements. And when I do start my main movements, I start off with something called a touchdown squat. And the thing is, right, I had quad tendonitis some time ago. Like, basically my quad tendon was super painful every single time I would do a squat. And so I started this movement just as a way to actually fix that, right? By strengthening the glute medius. And little did I know, this actually became one of my favorite movements, right? The touchdown squat I absolutely love, because even though it's a very small range of motion, it is so freaking brutal. It is so freaking painful in the glute med. I feel like it's necessary, especially because when it comes to running, a lot of IT band issues are caused because of a weak glute medius. And so that is what I aim to fix when it comes to doing this movement. I do 2 sets of 20 repetitions, actually no, 3 sets of 20 repetitions every single workout. When it comes to my legs, I start off with this. And now that I'm actually warmed up, again, my quads are warmed up, my glutes are warmed up, I move on to my main movement, my main squat, which is the ATG split squat. Again, Ben Patrick talks about these so much, and I understand why. It's a full range of motion. You can scale this to pretty much any level, and honestly, it just feels amazing because you are stretching your hip flexor and you are also strengthening your quads at the same time. So that is why I choose to do this movement specifically. And I finish off with cable hamstring curls. As I mentioned before, I have hamstring issues, right? I do Romanian deadlifts, the back of my knees hurt. I do hamstring curls to failure, the back of my knees hurt. So I want to slowly and steadily build these up, just like Mike Israel talked about in that podcast. And the movement that I've chosen for this is the cable hamstring curls. So I'm doing these super light for about 3 sets of 20 repetitions, and I'm slowly and steadily going to build up the weight over time as my knees feel better. But I just want to preface that this is not my final one and done leg day. Like, you can see the lower back's missing here. You can see CC squats, Nordic hamstring curls, reverse Nordics. These are all missing from this workout, and that is because I'm just starting. I want to be able to make progress in these movements first, and then I want to add in other movements, right? I want to add in the seated good mornings. I want to add in, the Nordic hamstring curls. I want to add in those things, but those come once I'm actually making progress with these movements specifically. When it comes to my upper days, the biggest changes that I've made are basically implementing rings. So previously I was doing push-ups on the floor, but after learning what Ben talked about with going through a full range of motion, and I know that I do have that range of motion to be able to do ring push-ups, I need to change up the load a bit so my shoulder does not get absolutely wrecked. So that is why I started doing push-ups, because with the rings you can scale easily, right? You can scale the difficulty, no problem. The closer the rings are to the anchor point, the more difficult it's going to be. And the further away they are from the anchor point, the easier it's going to be. And also the closer they are to the anchor point, the easier it is. And the further away they are from the anchor point, the harder it is. So using these things, I can, again, change up the load, and I can still stay in a full range of motion throughout that entire journey. That is why I choose to do rings. And I'm so stupid for sleeping on these for so long, because these feel so much better on my shoulders than normal push-ups, because my hands can actually move due to the rings being able to move. I do these for about 3 sets of 10 to 12, and then I move on to ring rows. These are another movement that I've added in my workouts. And the reason I do these, again, scalability, as well as being able to go through a full range of motion, so I can go until the rings touch my chest. That is why I do this movement. And with the ring rows, another thing is that if you bend your legs, it becomes easier, and if you straighten your legs, it becomes harder. So I have that variable as well to manipulate load and manipulate difficulty. And the last thing is implementing Ben's shoulder circuit. I feel like this is the most complete shoulder routine out there for rehab or prehab, as you want to say, on the internet. Because think about this, you are covering all of the ranges of motion that are going to get you strong in reverse. So again, I start off with the external rotations for about 8 to 12 repetitions. Then I move on to the power raise for about 8 to 12 repetitions. And then I move on to the trap free raise for about 8 to 12 repetitions. I do the circuit style for 2 to 3 rounds, and boom, that is it. That is my shoulder rehab done. So this is so sick. I can get all my movements done twice a week, and my shoulder is going to, inshallah, get better and better and better. Because think about it, right now I'm doing about 1.25 kilograms, right? If I can get to 10 kilograms for all of these movements, I know for a fact my shoulder is going to be way more stable, way more resilient, and that is exactly what I want. So that is how I implement the knees over toes guy principles, and I implement the ATG system. And I'm actually using this stuff to build a bulletproof hybrid athlete physique, because I've noticed this, right? A lot of hybrid athletes tend to get injured. Like, for example, Luke Hopkins had a stress fracture that he recovered from. Kim Gottwald has a stress fracture. Nick Bear, when he was about to go into his 2:30 marathon prep, also had some issues with his ankles. I don't want any of that. And so I'm taking the advice of Morning Coffee, who is someone on TikTok who has not been injured for the past 5 years, and he's done 22 marathons, 10 ultra marathons. Like, bro's a freaking unit, right? I've taken his advice of getting strong at these movements, getting strong at these specific movements, so I can become more resilient to injuries that may occur from hybrid training. That being said, I'll catch you in the next one, God willing. Peace.